First, we'll gather our supplies for our zippered pouch. We're going to do a patchwork section. So for the patchwork squares, we need 2.5-inch squares. And then we'll need the outer fabric, lining fabric. Then you're going to need some zipper, at least 16 inches long. This is just what I have. These are extra long, but that'll be fine. We can shorten them while we sew. So first you'll lay out your patchwork pieces. You'll have 22 squares. You'll lay them out how you want them to go. And then to get ready to sew, you're going to flip over all the way down. Also, I like to put a pin in the side that I'm planning to sew so I don't forget which side and accidentally do the other side like that. Okay, so all of mine are flipped over and pinned, and then I want to keep them in the same order, so I'm gonna start at the top and stack them up so that I can take them over to my sewing machine in the order that I want to sew them. We're ready to sew our squares together along this side. We have the machine set at 0 width, and we want a small stitch for this, so we'll do number 2 and straight stitch. And when you sew these together, you want to make sure they're lined up perfectly. These two edges are perfectly lined up with each other. You don't want this situation. You don't want this. You don't want this. You don't want this, okay? You want them to actually be perfect. All right, so we're gonna sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm gonna line up the edge of the fabric with the edge of the foot right here. So I'll lower the foot, and we'll go. 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right. So here is our seam, and it is just slightly bigger than a 1/4 inch, but for this project, as long as we keep it all the same, it's gonna be all right. So 1/4 inch seam allowance, line up your fabric with the edge of the foot, okay? Don't let the fabric come out from the side of the foot. Let it hide right underneath the foot, okay? When you get to the end of the block, don't pick it up or anything, just get your new block, make sure it's squared up nicely, lay it in there, and run it through. All right, so here's our strip of squares sewn together. First, we are going to press them flat. This kind of seals the stitches in. You can give it a little steam if you want. You press it flat. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna open these up all the way down. So I've opened these up all the way down, and what we're gonna do, mine are still connected, by the way. If it's easier for you to cut them, disconnect them, then go ahead and do that. That's fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron the seam allowance one way, and then the other way, then the other way, back and forth like that. And I like to give a little tug to make sure I'm opening it up all the way before I press it. Alright, so you press them this way, and then I like to flip them over and press them from the front also. Alright, now we are going to sew these together, and the way you do that is you put these right sides together, and these seams you're going to want to line up nicely, okay? And they do kind of fit together because we pressed one way and the other way. They do fit together nicely. I like to put a pin right there across that intersection, and then line up the beginning and sew straight across, 1/4 inch seam allowance, okay? And we'll do that all the way down the line. After that one is sewn, then we'll do the next one. Okay. All right, now we'll press them to the side. Okay, they're all pressed to the side. Now flip it over. Okay, and when I'm pressing, if I move the iron, I'm kind of picking it up a little. I'm not sliding it along without picking it up. I'm picking it up to move it. And if I don't pick it up all the way, then I'm at least taking pressure off to move it. Because you want an up and down motion. If you do a sliding motion, you can stretch out the fabric so that they're not in the shape that you want them anymore. So up and down is the best way to press. And then after it's pressed, it's good to leave it to cool off. It'll hold the press better if you let it cool off, just laying flat.